Guys, Mr. Reese here, Algebra 2, Section 4.1, new chapter talking about quadratics. As you can see, today I'm at home, so got that little home sign there, and not that it matters to you. Hey, what are you doing? That's my wife, anyways. All right, we're going to talk about how to graph. Quadratic, something has an x squared term, produces a U-shaped graph. You'll see here in the picture, there's a parabola. Some key features here. Axis of symmetry is this vertical line that cuts the parabola in half. It's a mirror image on each side. Vertex is this point right here at the top or bottom. The y-intercept is this point here where the graph crosses the y-axis. We'll also talk about x-intercepts, those 2 points there. Sometimes graphs have them, sometimes they don't. When we talk about standard form, this is really what standard form is. Ax squared plus bx plus c. Each of these letters does something. The A value, if it's positive, that makes the parabola open up. If it's negative, it makes the parabola open down. A larger A value will yield a narrower graph, whereas a smaller A value will yield a wider graph. For the B values, it's not as important. We'll talk about with the vertex. And the C value here, if you can see my face is covering it up, but we're talking about when x is 0, y equals c. It's the y-intercept. It's just the y-intercept at the end there. As we kind of go through here, there's a few rules to know. One, this is the only rule you have to memorize really. X equals negative b over 2a. We'll show you that in an example in a minute. To find the vertex, you need to use the AOS, then plug the value in to find the y value. And then for the y-intercept, all you have to do is look at c. That's it. So the y-intercept should be relatively easy. When we look at an example here, we are talking about how to graph. So this is a typical test example, quiz example. You use this rule, x equals negative b over 2a. Here, that's where you're going to start with the axis of symmetry, plug in those numbers, figure out your value. So we have x equals 2 here. For the vertex, we go ahead and take the y-intercept, the axis of symmetry, and we plug it in. So we take this formula, we plug in 2 for x, we go ahead and compute this out, and we find y equals negative 3. So that gives us the point when x equals 2, y equals negative 3, and that ends up being the point for our vertex. The y-intercept is just 5. So you just take that, that's it. That's all there is to it. You can do this math and plug it in, or x is in for 0, but you don't really have to. It's just at the end there. As we kind of go through to graph then, all we'll have to do is put these things on the graph. So there's your vertex, that's 2, negative 3 point. And you have your axis of symmetry, that's the vertical dotted line through the vertex. Then you go ahead and put the y-intercept on there. The only other thing we'll have to do is we just take this point and we reflect it across the dotted line, because we know that the dotted line shows us a mirror image from each side. And then we have our parabola that we can just graph by hand in there. So you take these 3 features, put those points on the graph, and then you can graph the thing. For maximum and minimum, this is kind of easy idea. Any parabola that opens up has a minimum value. That would be shown where the vertex is on the bottom. Any parabola where the has a negative a value that opens down has a maximum. So you can see here the vertex is at the top. You can actually find these in the calculator, and so kind of a definition there of the location versus the value of a maximum or minimum. But in this particular graph, the minimum value, you would say it's negative 4, because that's the y value. Whereas if I ask you the location, you'd say it's 1, negative 4. So just kind of know the difference between the value and the location. It's just kind of how the question is being worded. For your maximum and minimum on the calculator, follow these steps, plug it in the calculator, hit enter. You're going to find this menu on the calculator. Go ahead and hit second trace to bring up this particular menu. You'll either want to choose minimum or maximum depending on what the problem is. Here we see that it has a minimum, so that's why I chose answer choice 3, minimum. Then we go ahead and continue through this. It's going to go left bound, so you put the little spider, this little cursor thing just to the left, hit enter, and it asks you for the Then it asks you for a little bit to the right, hit enter. It asks you for the guess, go ahead and hit enter. And then the location of the minimum is displayed there. X equals 2, y equals -3. That's about it. You should be able to do these things after seeing these notes. Good luck. And that's section 4.1.